Sorry, people watching the video. We started the lecture a little bit late, but most of you who are watching this video are going to be my online students, so you already know me. You don't need to be introduced to me. But yes, so in about 2 months, look out for the Armed Forces Jam. You guys can join. You know, you have to pay to join the event because it costs us money to run it, so we have to charge people. But yeah, that's the idea. You can team up with people and make a video game within 48 hours. Pretty cool, right? So we just had the Indie Galactic Space Jam, and I think there were 12 games made within 48 hours. Usually I join a team, but this time I just helped run the event. So it's lots of fun. Anyway, enough about the stuff that I do. I am here to teach you guys about Substance Painter. I am also the ACD in Shading and Light. I forgot to mention that part. It's a very important part. So I mostly handle the online sections of the class, but because I'm so fond of Substance Painter and pretty experienced, out of Tony Saxon, Ari, and Frank, I'm definitely the most experienced in Substance Painter because I've been using it for years and still use it. So Tony asked me to come in and teach the lecture because I know so much about Substance Painter. But yes, you may have also seen me if you've been in the Discord at all. Anybody who's asking questions and critiques, I'm usually in there frequently. I know I've helped out a few campus students this month. Can I get your name, sir? I remember seeing you. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about Substance Painter. So I have a question for you guys. Tony Saxon's already taught you how to texture things using Photoshop. How to make textures using Photoshop, right? You make pictures, you bring them into Photoshop, you do that whole offset thing, you clone stamp it, you have a texture. So we already know how to make textures in Photoshop. What's the point of Substance Painter? Why are we using Substance Painter at all?
Has fancier tools.
What do you mean by fancier tools? What advantage does it give us?
They're probably doing on and finding more details, whatever map created.
Okay.
Create your own material.
What?
Create your own texture.
All right.
You're able to create multiple maps.
That's a good one. By multiple maps, you mean the different channels, right?
Yeah, we can create
Yes.
swap maps.
So you can simultaneously create and adjust all of those channels. That's one of the big advantages of Substance Painter. Because if I was to do this in Photoshop, if I make diffuse map, bump map, roughness map, and then I bring my stuff in for review and my art director's like, I want you to change that a little bit. Great. I have to change my diffuse map and change my height map and change my roughness map one by one. In Painter, you can literally adjust those all at the same time. Done. Anything else? You guys are missing out on kind of the most key part of Substance Painter. You mean the fact that you can paint on it in 3D? That's what I was trying to get at. You can paint on your objects in 3D. This is a huge advantage because when you're texturing things in Photoshop, you're kind of guessing what it's going to look like. I think it's going to look like this. Then you bring it into Maya, and you're like, no, it doesn't. You render it. It's not what I wanted. And you got to go back into Photoshop, change it, save it out, plug it back in, render it. No. I know this process well because when I worked at Tiger Woods, this is what I had to do every day. And the amount of times that we had to iterate before we had access to Substance Painter was significantly more, because you don't know what it's going to look like until you bring it in and you look at it in 3D. Also, Substance Painter has a dome light. They call it something different. It's essentially a dome light. So it is giving us lighting from our environment. We can plug our same dome light that we're using in our scene onto our model, and we can actually use that lighting to see our model, which is getting us so much closer to where it is in Maya. There's still some things that you have to adjust, but it just cuts down on everything. It makes it a lot smoother. Additionally, where is it? I don't need to talk about that anymore. I want to talk about this. Procedural materials. Now, people get very, very into the smart materials. And in fact, I bet most of you have already used one in one of your previous classes, right? We are going to avoid specifically smart materials. And the reason is because I see a lot of students who just throw smart materials on their project and they go, I'm done, right? No. The main reason we're not doing that is because we are going to teach you guys to build your own textures. If you are throwing smart materials on your model and saying, I'm done, then you're not texturing. And I'm going to tell you this, when you guys go to look for jobs, every artist knows what all the default materials in Substance Painter look like. So your employer is going to know when he looks at your stuff, if you do that. So instead, I'm going to teach you how to utilize smart masks to build your own smart materials. And we are going to use a lot of masks. Now, these are still procedurals. They are built by a programmer to make your life easier. You have to play with all the settings. Just like you did the materials in Maya. You have to play with the settings to get what you want. But we're going to really utilize these. We're also going to utilize masks a lot. Who knows what a mask is? Yeah, what's a mask?
Basically, and after the layers go on top of whatever the base layers we use. I describe it. Sorry.
So it is an extra channel in a layer, but close. And it's a black and white, right? And so what it does is, what happens when you paint black in that mask? He's helping.
I guess you went to the letter black. So when you put a mask on something, you're gonna have to help me with this. If it's either black or white, so if you have a mask on and say it's a white mask, then it only affects the area in which it's colored in white.
Yes.
And if it's black, then it's not affect that area.
In fact, the entire image is invisible if you paint black. And it could be an adjustment layer. And with adjustment layers, if you paint black, it's not adjusting in that specific area. But these are insanely useful in Substance Painter. I'm not kidding. I will make a layer and I will put 4 or 5 maps on that layer working together. In fact, that is exactly what we're going to do today, because it's fun. I find it fun. So, but this is the basic example, right? I took 3 layers, I made them red, blue, and green, and I put masks on them. And I got this. Here's what it looks like if it's actually different texture layers. We're not going to do the cutting board today. We're going to work on the interior scene. And then just briefly, layers and channels. So we will be using the new Adobe standard material that I've had a little bit of practice with. It's pretty much PBR, but it's got a little bit of extra bells and whistles on it. It's pretty great. It can actually do antroscopy. I haven't figured out how to make that work, but I know it can do it. Maybe I'll look it up during the break. So standard PBR materials are diffuse color, height, bump, normal map. Those are all one channel, just different names for it. Specular or metallic, and then roughness. Additionally, occlusion, which is like visibility, and emissive, which is like a glow map. Roughness. Let's talk about roughness before we get in. We're about to start demoing, but I want to talk about roughness. Actually, I hope I'm not ignoring you guys in the chat.
You sound a little muffled.
It's because I'm wearing a mask. I am muffled.
No, it's when you move away, I think.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It happens. I will try to minimize that. So let's talk about roughness. Roughness is a material channel. We've already had access to it. What does roughness do? Yeah,
It makes the reflection on an object less clear.
perfect. So roughness is the thing that I find a lot of students tend to ignore, but it is super important to making your reflectivity look right, especially once we start jumping into Substance Painter. That is really all I have to say on that. Okay, so I think we are ready to start doing some actual demoing. Change my screen share here for you guys. So we're going to start by doing the Maya export. I know a number of you guys have already seen it, so we're not going to be doing it super slow and detailed. We're just going to go ahead and export our objects out. So here we go. I have a scene that I've pre-built for Maya. I have a couple of objects that I'm going to focus on, and we're going to export these objects into Substance Painter, and then that will be all. So we're going to kind of focus on the objects in the close-up because if we put details on anything else, they're not really going to show up. So I am going to do the desk, the thermos, and the mug. Couple of things to pay attention to. A lot of these objects have UVs that were not laid out with the idea of going into Substance Painter. For example, the desk lamp. These UVs are not useful to us. However, the mug, I have gone in and redone the UVs. I have redone the UVs on the thermos. And I have redone the UVs on the desk so that they are split up by material. You will need to do this before you export. Now, if you haven't done this, it's okay. You can kind of pay attention and take notes and then catch up during the break. You know, it's not actually meant for you guys to follow along. It's meant more for you to observe. The other thing is, you guys know what happens when you press the 3 key on your computer in Maya? Makes it all smooth. So a number of these objects have had that done to it, which is fine if you're going to stay in Maya. But if you're going to leave Maya, that 3 key smoothing thing, that's a Maya only thing. So if you're going to go into Substance Painter, you want to make sure that's not going on. So what you do, and there's an object over here that I know has it. Use this as an example. If I press 1, it's ugly. If I press 3, it's smooth. So what you do, actually, somehow I got the window. So what you do is you select the object, you press 1 to make sure it's not being smooth, and then you do an actual geometry smooth. You go to mesh, and you go to smooth. And you may need to do it twice. And then this is the actual geometry that it was doing a fake smooth in Maya. Undo so that I can demo that next month.
For lecture 9. I will be the shading and lighting teacher next month for lecture 9. Also the entire online class. Now, those are two things that you need to be aware of. Aside from that, we are just going to export our FBXs, our models as an FBX, sorry. Thermos, go ahead and get that plastic ring. I like to export the laptop just so I know where it is. Kind of just a placement thing. And I'll go ahead and go to export selection and class demos. Oh wait, that's not where I want to be. I'm actually going to go. You may notice I have my own custom built project folder that has all of the projects in it. I've also added the scene FBX folder. I got tired of all those separate floating project 1, project 2, project 3 folders. So I built my own master folder. You don't have to do that. I just like it. So FBX exported, this will come up. It will be on the right-hand side of your save dialog. You're going to go to animation, make sure animation is unchecked. I like to go to advanced options, FBX file format, and save mine to this old 2014, 2015. This is because of a weird bug in the newer exporters where you cannot re-import your model back into Maya. It'll go into Substance fine, it'll go into Unreal, it'll go into Unity. It just won't go back into a modeling package. That means Maya, 3D Studio Max, Cinema 4D, Blender, none of them will work with it. I don't know why, but I found this out because I was working on a job with some other people. They had to go look at my model and it wouldn't work. So I was like, well then. Anyway, just hit export. And there we go. Another thing about that smooth preview that I was talking about, how many of you guys are game art? So you will not love the smooth preview thing because you're going to export your models, bring them into Unreal, right? Guess what? That smooth preview doesn't work with Unreal. So you're going to have to do what we just did with the glass bottle. Press 1, go to mesh smooth twice, right before you export. Use your own judgment. Look at the model. If it still looks kind of rough after being smoothed once, you'll need to smooth it twice. If it still looks kind of jaggy, that's not what we want. That's not good. Just smooth it again. Okay. So after that, we should be able to say goodbye to Maya for a while. Goodbye, Maya. Substance Painter, the new Substance Painter. Adobe Substance 3D Painter. Ew. What? Yes.
Nothing really does want to monopolize the market.
Oh, yeah, totally. I am honestly not a fan that it got repackaged into the Creative Cloud because I liked the old Substance launcher. That was its own thing. And I could view all of the materials that I was purchasing on their material library and just with one button press, boom, load them up and paint. Doesn't work like that anymore. And one day I'm gonna have to sit down with my personal stuff that I have for my company and figure out exactly how to convert everything over. Not looking forward to it. What'd you say?
Oh, I said I don't blame you.
I need to do it soon. It's starting to cause me a lot of problems.
Okay, so here we are in Substance. We're gonna go to File, New. Select lectures. This is just finding my own, navigating my own stuff. Don't worry if you can't keep out. Here is the file we just exported. Open. I didn't set anything up for UDIM, so we're not really going to worry about that. Import cameras. There's no camera. Okay. We'll leave it on 1024. We may lower that on certain pieces. So here we go. Here's our scene. Oh, we can see through the laptop, but that's just placeholder anyway. You will notice that the texture set list is based on my material selection. So Chrome Thermos, where's the laptop? Chromebook not ready for Painter. I'm a silly guy. So here we are. We are in Painter. We are using the brand new, where is it? The shader, ASM Material Rough, or Metal Rough. I'm going to make some adjustments to this, but the new one has some good tricks to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the texture set settings, and I'm going to go down to Bake Mesh Maps. So we're not going to do a normal map. We're not going to do a material ID. We are going to do ambient occlusion. I do have to go in here and change self occlusion to only same mesh name. And I'm going to have to do that in curvature too, I think. No, thickness. So we're also going to do curvature, position, thickness, and world space normal. Thickness, only same mesh. And hang on, selection, not the Chromebook, not the desk legs, not the coffee in the mug, and not the plastic ring. So now, here we go. Here's our settings. Output size, 512. That's probably okay for these maps. So bake selected textures. By the way, we didn't bake out a normal map. There is a situation where we would do that. And those of you who are in game art are going to get used to this workflow, probably. How many of you guys have used ZBrush? How many people know what ZBrush is? It's a cool application, right? You can sculpt, you can make a lot of detail. And typically when you're done, you export out a 4 billion polygon model. It's not really going to run in a game engine super efficiently, especially if you have a lot of them. So what we do in that case is we have a high resolution mesh with all of our detail and a low resolution mesh. And we bake the high resolution detail into a normal map that we put on there. But we're not doing that today because we don't really need to. I can see that my texture maps didn't bake the way I wanted to. Why did they do that? I know why they did that. And it's actually really annoying. Okay, so here we are. Did I? Oh no. I didn't export the top of the thermos. All right. Fortunately, I export these every month and I can just import the one from last month. Oh, I didn't put the MacBook on last month. Sweet. Nothing's ever perfect. All right, no coffee, no desk legs, no plastic ring. And then go to ambient occlusion, make sure it's on desk base. Let me say mesh. And drawer. And then thickness. Critical oversight on my part. It happens. Just bake all these suckers out again. Which should come up. All right. Libraries, project. Where are they? Here they are. So the new Substance Painter, this version is a lot more customizable. So we can actually break things down a little bit better. You can create your own libraries as well. That beeping is super fun, and I hope it continues. So that thing's been beeping all month.
Yeah. At night it gets worse because no one comes to turn it off.
It's literally just the fire alarm door.
I bet the battery's dead and no one's fixing it.
No, it's like people will go out the door and they will just like there's no security people that'll come turn it off.
Why are they going out the fire door?
It'll be crazy.
Okay, so before we move on, well, the next thing I want to do is I want to bring my dome light and all that stuff in. So I'm just going to go down here to the little plus, which brings up the import resources window. And I have a bunch of stuff we're going to bring in. So let's start by going into our source images. So the mask is super useful when you have to use glasses. Where was I? Lost my train of thought. Okay. So here is our dome light, the parking lot. Next up, I'm going to bring in a couple of other things that are going to be useful to me. So I'm going to bring in a wood grain. I'll bring in 2 wood grains. I'm going to bring in a logo image. A water ring. All right, you know what? All of you guys. And then this happy looking corgi fella. We're going to set these to save to our project. You can set them to current session or into your library forever if you want. I'm going to save them so that they're packaged in with this file. It's going to make the file size a little bigger, but it'll be okay. So here we go. Our parking lot is an environment. Our corgi alpha is an alpha. Our jitters logo, alpha and alpha. Star Labs alpha, water ring alpha, side table, texture, wood grain, texture, wood panels. I don't actually want that, but okay, texture. And import. And there's all our guys. And I don't want you, so you can just go away. You can go away. Fine, stay there forever. What'd you say?
Oh, I said, I'm glad you understand.
Okay, So here, we can go to the little monitor and we go to environment. There's a bunch of different environments. We can't actually see them. Let's crank up the opacity and lower the blur. So we can have our desk in the woods. We can have our desk in like, what is this, an alley? Yeah, an alley in what I think is a small town in France. We can have it on a patio, which is not bad. But I think I want it in our parking lot, which is, what is this? Oh, this is new, a dance club. Here it is. So here's our parking lot. It is a little bit dark, so I'm gonna increase the exposure just a little bit. I think it's because this doesn't particularly like HDRIs. All right. And then I'm just gonna make this blurry again, because this is how I like to work. But I think we are ready to begin. We are gonna start by working on the coffee mug. I'll click solo. There we go. There's a couple of things that I want to do to my, oh my, we need to rebake that. That's it. What's that?
So you can just keep on redoing bakes and not, if you keep on redoing bakes, does it add to the size of the file?
Nah, it overrides the old ones. So it's actually generating a texture, just overwrites them every time. And we only need to do the coffee mug, so selection. Come on. No, no, no. Yes. Yeah, I need some water, guys. Okay, so here we have our little mug. Now, there's some things that I'm going to do that I can do in the new substance that I couldn't do in the old substance that I honestly think Tony Saxon would be a fan of. So number one, we're gonna adjust these channels. I'm going to get rid of normal, and we're not going to use metal, but we'll leave it in here. It kind of freaks out if you get rid of it. What we are going to add is we're going to add specular level. And Tony's talked to you guys about specular and roughness and the difference between them, right? So that's what we have access to now. Okay, now, traditionally in Painter, what a lot of you are probably used to is these kind of paint layers. I can go in here and I can change this to like red, and I can paint, woo! And then I can change this to like blue and I can paint. But we're not going to do that. We're going to instead work entirely using fill layers. Has anybody else explained this workflow to you guys before? Okay, I'm not sure because Adam steals a lot of my content for MCR. We recently had a conversation where he's like, Jared's been stealing a bunch of my lectures. And I'm like, I know what that feels like, Adam. So what we're gonna do is we can't paint on this. But for example, let's say I make this red again. And let's say I want this to be really reflective, high specular level, low roughness. Yeah, see, that changes things. And then I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna make this one blue. I'm gonna make this one, actually gonna lower the height. And I'm going to increase the roughness a little bit, still high spec and middle roughness. But again, I can't paint, but we have masks. So I'm gonna add a black mask. And now anywhere I want blue, I can just paint and we have blue. But the beauty of this is, let's say I change my mind, or more likely, my art director or my client changes their mind and they're like, I know I told you that logo was blue, but it's actually green. So I need you to change it. And I go, okay. Like this, 2 seconds, done. If I didn't use a fill layer, I'd have to go back in and repaint that whole stroke. Especially because the logo is actually probably significantly more complicated. So what would have taken me realistically 20 minutes, 10, 20 minutes to recreate, I did in 2 seconds. And I can also be like, oh, that's too much roughness. Okay. Oh, you didn't want it to be super specular. All right. Oh, it was supposed to be popping up instead of popping down. Okay. Actually, I don't like that with that specular off. Wow, they did really change the height. You could not get that much going out of the normal maps before. Look at that. Woo! Yeah, it used to be like this was the end of it. You could go between there and there. Now it's like, woo! Sorry, I was at GDC when they were showing this stuff off, and I was like, that is good stuff, but you got rid of my substance launcher. I actually have a few friends on the algorithmic staff, so I was trying to be supportive, but being like, I'm mad at you guys. And I know it wasn't their choice. It was Adobe corporate. They're like, we want everything in the Creative Cloud. I know you have this launcher that everybody loves, but get rid of it. Anyway, so that's the kind of workflow we're going to go with. So I'm going to actually delete all of these that I just made and make a new one and name it face. And I'm going to bring up my reference so you guys can see that I'm not just shooting from the hip here. Where is it? Substance reference. Here is all my reference. Why is there a desk lamp in here? Also, these jars. Okay, now I'm just opening extra pictures. There we go. Here's my reference for our coffee mugs. I don't like this color though. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to make it the dark blue. So I'm actually going to use the color picker and just color pick my reference. Right there. I can tell that my reference is very glossy. I'm going to lower the roughness. Ugh. Trying to teach a lecture where you constantly have to say the word reference and roughness is infuriating. And because I have this new material, I'm going to increase my specular level, which is pretty great. That was such a pain in the butt before. It's way better now. So there we go. Next, I am going to add a logo. And because Tony Saxon and I used to be both big fans of the Flash, we're gonna make it an actual Star Labs logo. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use this 2D, 3D split view. And I'm gonna use my layer here. I'm gonna add a black mask. And I'm going to put this logo in stencil. And that gives me this. And if I hold S, I can actually middle mouse pan, right mouse kind of move, or right mouse scales, left mouse rotates, but I don't really want to do that. And you can do it in the viewport too. Yeah. Just while you're holding the S key. And then inside there, I need a new brush. Not imported. What do I want? I want, give me the artistic one at least. There we go. That looks pretty good, right? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Star Labs coffee mug. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm very fickle. And I could even go back in if I wanted to and kind of chip away at some of it, but it would be gloss, so it wouldn't do that. All right. So get rid of our stencil and go back in the layer. And so believe it or not, I can actually change this. I could make it brighter. I want to go too bright. Yeah, it's fine. We could make it metallic, which is really weird. I'm actually going to get rid of metal because we don't need it. I could make it more spec, less spec. I'm actually going to make it less spec and higher rough. I could add height, but that's super weird, so no height. And there we go. And we can hold shift and right click to rotate the dome, which checks our lighting. It's good. We can press C and check out our channels. Now, we've made a pretty good base. But let's be honest, I could have done all this in Photoshop. We could have done all this using what we already know. What I want to talk to you guys about is what I like to call object history. So, this coffee mug looks brand new, doesn't it? When's the last time you saw a brand new coffee mug and you weren't at the store?
Yes, they bought it. And bought it.
And how long did it take you to make it look not like a new coffee mug?
Yeah.
This is my point. Unless all of our coffee mugs are 2 hours old, they don't look like it. What does a coffee mug look like 4 hours after you had it? Fingerprints, very good.
Marks,
What'd you say?
fingerprints, left marks,
Lip mark.
potentially stains from what you drank.
What'd you drink it?
Honestly, water, but sometimes it's like hot chocolate or something.
Hot chocolate. We'll go with hot chocolate. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that object history. And this is one of those things that I learned when I was a young 3D artist, fresh out of college. When you're going to look for jobs, this is one of those things that if you want to be an environment artist, a texture artist, a look development artist, or really just a modeler who might have to texture anything, this is something employers look for. They want you to be able to understand what something looks like in the real world. Because if you're doing a video game, if you're doing a movie, and that object is going to be anywhere where the viewer can see it really well, and it looks like this, then people are like, that's not real, lazy. You would never see a coffee mug like this in Deus Ex. Or Call of Duty, right? There's no new objects in Call of Duty. Even your guns are messed up. Trying to think of another video game. Apex Legends. Fallout. Oh yeah, nothing looks new in Fallout. Everything's like 20 years old. What's that? I need to play that, but yes.
The Last of Us.
Yeah, The Last of Us.
Nothing's new there.
Nothing new there. So this is where we're going. I mean, we're not going to get that bad. Actually, there's a really good trailer that talks about this very well. I always tell people that your environment should be able to tell a story without any characters in it. How many of you seen the first trailer for the First Division? Do you remember it?
Almost, yeah.
I love that trailer. I don't really like the Division because I don't like first-person shooters or Tom Clancy games. But that trailer almost made me buy that game. Until I saw a gameplay video and I was like, yeah, I don't like Tom Clancy, so it was not my cup of tea. But that trailer, they told like a 2-minute trailer. You didn't see a character until the last 3 seconds. The entire thing was told just from shots from environments. And it did a good job. But it talked about like a plague and people were dying and riots. It was just narration and environment. Beautiful environments with great detail. This is what I mean. You should be able to tell a story with an environment. And that trailer, excellent job. That's what we're going for. So, our coffee mug. What is our coffee mug's history? Hot chocolate. What'd you say? No, it wasn't.
It fell one, so it has a chip.
So we would actually need to model that chip. So we're not going to do that because we would have to go back into Maya, and I don't have that kind of time. Good thinking, though. I like your thoughts.
Ramen.
What'd you say?
Ramen and a cup.
Ramen in a cup.
Yeah.
What would that leave behind?
Oil markers.
Okay, we'll go with that. I have to look up reference for that because I have no idea what that looks like. So
I'm gonna go
fingerprints.
home and get one of my cups. I'll bring it back to you to see as a physical reference.
Physical reference is good. Fingerprints. What else would I put on a copy?
Lip smudges?
I've done that one before.
Lipstick smudges.
See, this is where texturing gets kind of fun, guys. What's that?
I would say like 1 ounce label.
Oh, because like the dishwasher got to it?
How
would I do that? What'd you say?
I know I'm saying because the label starts getting scratched up, but bouncing off of what they're saying.
So I would, when you were putting on the label, I'd say like the brush you're using, I wouldn't like completely fill it.
I mean, I could just make another layer and paint it back out.
If you put crack, you have to model that or like your,
What he was talking about is a chip. That would
Yeah.
be a noticeable difference in the geometry.
yeah, but what about a crack?
Crack?
Give the mug.
To be honest with you, my coffee mug has a crack. I'm not using it. In the trash. Good idea though, but that's my thought process. I'm not doing a crack. So fingerprints, lip swatches. I think we've got a good start here.
Leftover droplets from poison.
What?
Yeah. Cyanide.
No. First of all, I don't even know where to start looking for reference for that, and I am not putting that in my Google search history. I will do the blurring of the logo.
Can we put in the bottom of the mug, like the inside of the mug saying keep it poisoned?
No,
Oh,
because you wouldn't see it because there's hot chocolate in it. All right, let's get started on this list. This is a good list.
that saucer, it says, there is no antidote.
Okay. Enough fun. So 3D only. Now, I do actually have a layer for our hot chocolate. It was originally coffee, but we can make it hot chocolate. Hot chocolate is like a brown. Wait, I am changing the logo. On the wrong thing. So here, that is so annoying, that beeping.
No, it should be closer to one. We literally hear it way louder constantly.
Why has nobody fixed that?
Because they don't care enough to.
There we go. There's our hot chocolate. Let's go back into our mug. All right. So first thing, oh, that's, dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it. I don't know if I can still blur that. If I add a fill, it gets rid of it. Yeah, we're gonna ignore that. Sorry, we're not blurring the logo. I could just use this brush and blur it. Actually, maybe I can still do that. Check. Oh, hey, there we go. That's too strong though. You can't what? Are you watching the Zoom? That would be why. That's why we give you the Zoom. I mean, you're close enough, but she's in the back. So let's lower the strength because this should be a little bit more subtle. There we go. We blurred it. Super easy. Okay. Let's do our hot chocolate now. Okay. So like a nice there we go. We got a nice base to work with, and then we're going to instantly add a black mask. And so when I go about making masks, I start and I have a certain process I like to use. First, I will examine any smart materials I want to use, which I think are here now. Here they are. So what would we use is the question. What would we use for a coffee mug? Why? Water drips. Sure. It's possibly too many water drips. But this is why you have to play with the settings. Level. You know what? Let's bring these back up a bit. Lower the opacity. We're saving apparently. which I don't know how we're saving because I didn't actually save the scene yet, which is mistake number one on my part. And in my projects folder, I went ahead and added a folder for substance files. Oh boy, I need to clear this out of all this stuff. Okay. So then I'm going to lower the opacity. Whoa. That is the opposite of what I want. Never mind. We'll leave that there for now. And now I'm going to add a fill. And I'm going to go to, where are they? My grunges. I'm going to pick a nice one. Scratchy. That was that's one we could have actually done. Scratches. On dirt. Dust. Grunge wipes. Go in here and add this one. But here's my trick, guys. I'm going to take that, and instead of making it normal, I'm going to make it multiply. So what we're getting is it's actually removing the coffee smudges or the coffee drips. And I'll manually remove some later. Then I'm going to add another fill. And I'm going to use one of my favorites. Ah, heck, I'll just search for it. Eek. Would help if I ever learned how to type in my life. So this is the one I like, leaks. So I'm going to start by changing the scale to, and then bring back my 2D, 3D because I can just manually move this. And let's change the balance and the contrast. We can change this to lighten max, which is like linear dodge add. But some people have been recommending it to me. Now, the question is, do I want this up here or do I want this below my wipe? I think I want it below the wipe because that wipe is doing a pretty good job kind of making it a little bit more natural.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a way to make sure that dust don't affect a certain area?
So yes, what you can do, and we're actually going to get to that in just a little bit. So actually just wait and I'll show you. Because right now we don't have direct control over everything that we're doing. The masks are kind of like leading the way, and that's okay. Because I'm kind of adding some things up and building a little bit more detail, and I'm pretty happy with where we are right now. So what I'm going to do now is I always do this is I add a paint on top of everything that I do. And with this, I can now go in and I'm just going to grab a brush and the best brush, Dirt 2, my favorite brush for that minimum size BS. And so here's what I like to do. I'll go to stroke opacity and I'll lower it and I'll just paint out details I don't like. Are you working? No flow. Size, minimum size, size jitter, flow jitter, angle jitter, position jitter. I'm sorry, this is new weirdness with the new version. I'm a little confused with how this is working. Guys, I don't want a resource. I just want a color. Ah. What the heck? Grayscale. Well, this is frustrating. I swear I painted before and there was no problem. Ah, come on, I really need to paint some of this. What'd you say? I'm just painting on the paint layer and I'm trying to paint black in here, which used to be something I could totally do. No. I mean, there just used to be a grayscale slider in here like before. What do you want me to put in here? Come on. All right, let's try a new, maybe the paint layer was just messed up. Let's try a new paint. Nope, can't do anything there. That is frustrating. I know so many artists that use that workflow. There's no way it's not still valid. Paint, filter. Okay. I hate to do this, but we have to do what people do when stuff is no longer working. Here we go. This is an older version. Okay, well, let's try saving, closing. Why do I have all of this running? I would actually go on their Discord if I wasn't doing a lecture and be like, hey, what's going on with this? Fortunately, I am doing a lecture, so that is extremely not a good workflow for right now. Also confused because I've totally tested all of this. There we go. It just wasn't loading earlier. There it is. That's what was missing. Like this wasn't showing up. Okay. Ignore the last, 10 minutes of me trying to figure out how to fix this. I thought it was a version problem. So grab our dirt brush Yes. That's what I want to see down there. Lower our stroke opacity, raise our minimum size, and now we can paint our detail out. This is, I can see it working. It's just working a bit slower than I would like. Means my stroke opacity is probably up too much. More black, right? Okay. So I'm kind of focusing on the handle because I don't want any coffee stains on the handle. Which I could actually do easier just by doing this. And so it's specifically targeting those coffee stains. So just kind of let's bring that light around. Yep. That's so a little too gross. Especially at the bottom. You wouldn't get that much at the bottom. There we go. We've got our coffee stains. It's looking pretty good. There we go. Oh, by the way, I forgot to go into the main stuff here and adjust this because the roughness would be pretty high. There would be no height, but the specular level of coffee stains is quite a bit lower than the specular level of non-coffee stains. And the roughness wouldn't be affected that much, not as much as the specular level would. And again, we can press C to check our maps. So roughness is not a big difference, quite a big difference in specular height. So there we go. Next up, fingerprints. I'm so annoyed I lost like 5 minutes to trying to figure out why that wouldn't work. And I just needed to save and close Substance because it was having a brain fart. Okay, so fingerprints, it's not really going to be as much about the color as it's going to be all in the spec and roughness. Because again, fingerprints, you just go down, have much lower spec. And for now, let's get rid of height, get rid of metal, we'll even get rid of color. And higher roughness. So now, if I turn this layer off, yeah, look how dull it is. And I'll leave color on for now just because it's going to be a little bit easier to see. But I'm going to turn it off before we're done. And again, we're going to put in a black mask. So I always like to start with a smart mask and see if there's one I can use. I don't think there really is for fingerprints. Quiet, phone. We could just add something like this to see what it looks like. Nope. That's not what we want. Stains, scratches? Fun, but no. That would actually be really fun to do with a height map. So I'm going to skip that one and go straight to adding a fill. So you add fill. And I know there's some really good fills. That's why I was kind of looking forward to this. Finger prints, finger smudges. Fingerprints dirty. Fingerprints dusty. Fingerprints dust spread. fingerprints smeared. Fingerprints smeared wide. Let's start out with this one. And we'll increase the tiling because, you know, basically my UVs are too big. I'll just make it like 2. And I think we can actually invert this. Let's invert it back. There we go. Some nice looking fingerprints. And I'm going to add another. Now that looks super weird until you keep in mind, we're not going to have the color. So instead, what we're going to have is something that looks like this. You see how that light is getting affected? Let's turn off our hot chocolate real quick. You guys see that? That is what we want. And I'm going to do more. That's not enough. Add that back on. So let's add another fill. And this time, we're going to go for this one. Okay, that's possibly too much. But I do like it on the handle. That's okay. That's okay. We can always go in and lower the opacity. And then we'll paint it out later. Oh, we lowered it too much. Curses. Oh, and change this to light max. That is one greasy, disgusting mug. This is what you ate the ramen noodles out of. See? It's all greasy and disgusting.
Yes, I thought it was always good.
Yeah, but you got ramen on your fingers and then you touched it.
That's true.
So I think I made a mistake by making this inverted. That worked for the ramen idea, but for the coffee idea, that was way too much grease. There we go. We got some nice fingerprints happening there. Maybe I'll add one more fill just because I'm honestly greedy. Greedy for substance details. So I can go to the mask, or I could go and put my white back on. Either or. Doing nothing. So there we go. That's fun. And of course, I'm going to add a paint layer, because I always do this. And I always get my favorite brush. And I'm going to paint out some areas where you wouldn't really have as much greasy fingerprints. Because nobody touches the sides of the coffee mug when there's something hot in there. Or at least nobody's smart. I say that because I have not been that smart person on more than one occasion. Flow is fine. I need stroke opacity. I'm going to leave the handle because the handle is where the fingerprints go. Oh, I got a texture seam back here. Gross. Get rid of that. All right, stroke opacity up just for this. All right. So there we go. It's not bad. Okay, what do we got left? We even did the oil marking kind of with the fingerprints. We'll do the lipstick and then we'll call it a day. We'll call it a day for the coffee mug at least. I'm going to lower this. Eh. Kind of bringing my coffee strikes out a bit more. So I'm lowering the multiply down to 90. There we go. Just bring them out a little bit. This sort of texturing, by the way, guys, is all about subtlety. You want these details to be there, but you don't want them to be too powerful unless you're literally doing a mug that's on a table in The Last of Us and it's covered in like mold and stuff. But that is not the mug that we're going for. I mean, you could do that, but you're going to have a lot of work to do in your environment because you're going to have to make the whole room moldy. I've never had a student try that. I don't know if I recommend that. That would be a pain. It's doable. It would just be a lot of work. Okay. So finally, oh, shoot, I forgot one thing I wanted to show you guys. Let's go back in our paint layer here. Believe it or not, there is a fingerprints brush. So I could actually just take this, go straight into my paint layer and be like, you know what? I need more fingerprints. And literally just add some fingerprints. Those are actually some really big fingerprints. Now that I think about it. Lower that. I got a little bit too much flow jitter there. Oh no, I put those in. Oh, put those in the coffee. Not in the right layer. I'm having one of those days, class. Okay, let's try this again. And this time, do it right. There we go. So let's do some lipstick now. What color is our lipstick? I'm gonna need you to be more specific. Guys, use an actual lipstick shade. You have Google. Brick red?
You can literally use any tool.
Nah, he said brick red. I'm going with that. So here's what I'm going to do, just so you guys know. I've literally looked up brick red lipstick. And we are going to color sample that. Yeah, actually, there's some. Where'd they go? There we go. Brick red lipstick. I'm also going to go back to my full screen. So probably not a lot of metal in our lipstick. No height. Specular. Well, it's lower than our mug, that's for sure. We can adjust that. Roughness, again, we're going to have a little bit more than we do on our mug because it's actually taking the roughness of the lipstick itself, which does have roughness to it. And lipsticks are pretty powdery, so I'm actually going to make that pretty high. Well, this one is. There are some that are glossy. I do have a girlfriend. That's why I know about this stuff. And she likes to share makeup details with me. I'm like, I don't know why you're telling me this. Specifically, apparently, this is when it comes in handy.
That's what she's telling you. So you can put it into your work.
So I can put it into my work. All right. So here we go. We've got our lipstick. And we're going to put it in our stuff. Let's see if there's anything that can help us here in forms of fills. Hey, what do you know? There is. Oh, those are alphas, not fills. So I don't, oh, this gradient's actually pretty good. I don't think that the lipstick is gonna have a fill. Instead, we're just gonna go straight to the paint in the mask. Add paint. And I'm gonna do a couple of stencils to start out with. You know, I just got rid of the 2D and now I need it back. How big are our lips? Only one way to find out. Are those too big? Yeah, they are. I need actually different brush. No, I think the size is big. I think the position is off. So let's add some spacing jitter. Some spacing in our brush. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, I want some spacing. That looks weird. Okay. That's a good start. Let's get rid of this stencil. And now the real work begins. Because we wouldn't have a full lip like that. So I'm going to go back to my favorite brush, lower the opacity. Because it wouldn't be this clear. Doesn't matter how much makeup she put on. The cool thing is, check this out. If we turn off the color, we could still see the lips. We probably should put lips on even if we didn't have lipstick. This room is just the best. What is that? Sounds like there's a leak in the ceiling. So I'm actually lowering the color opacity, but we have opacity on all of our channels. So we could actually lower roughness if we wanted to, or specular level. But I think it's a pretty satisfying coffee cup, don't you guys? This doesn't look like that coffee cup that he bought at the store yesterday. Although I don't know. Just pulled the HDMI out. And somehow stopped sharing my screen all at once. Okay, it's looking pretty good. So here's what I'm thinking. We have to do the desk. What do you guys say we take a 20-minute break, come back, and we do the desk? And then we'll do the thermos, we'll bring it back into Maya, and that'll be the end of it today. Okay? So everybody, I'll leave the I'm gonna leave the Zoom open so we don't have to open it and close it and whatnot. I'll just pause the recording and then make sure I remember to turn it back on. I forgot that last time. I'll pause the recording and then in 20 minutes, we'll come back and we'll start this all over again. All right. Okay, everybody, welcome back. I had a little break. Maybe got some food, got a bathroom. I ate a plum. So now we are going to do the desk. And I have broken the desk up into multiple materials. So the desk legs, I'm not really going to texture in Painter. So I'm just going to actually throw a material on here. Because I'm not actually going to export it out. So it's really just a placeholder for my visuals. Is there steel? Steel paint, steel rough. That's probably pretty good. There you go. Lower the roughness. There we are. Again, we're not going to export that, so it's really just kind of a visual placeholder. Let's go ahead and start working on the desk. Now, for the mug, we didn't really use anything that we brought in except for the stencil. For the desk, it's something a little bit different. So I'm going to make a fill layer for my base. But instead of it just being like a blue ceramic surface, this time I'm going to make a wood grain. Now, a lot of you probably have gone in and just used the wood grains that come packaged with Substance Painter. I know there's a couple of good ones. I've used them in the past myself. But again, that's not really going to define our ability to create art as an artist. We want to make our own wood grains. And this is where the textures that we've brought in for our project here, where are they? These are going to come into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this wood grain that I actually made in Substance, or sorry, in Photoshop, tiled it, and I'm going to bring it in. It is too large, which is not surprising. So I'm going to increase the tiling, or rotate it 90 degrees because I'd like it to go in the other direction. Let's see what 3 looks like there. I can notice the repeating, but probably not with the laptop there. Well, let's go back to 2. And see where I tiled it in Photoshop. So I don't love that. There we are. And then just like before, we're actually, forgot to do this. Going to get rid of normal, and I'm going to add specular level once again. So not metallic, so we'll leave metallic on black. Roughness is going to be pretty low. Specular level, I'm going to raise a little bit. I'm not going to raise it all the way up because that is way too glossy for this desk. It is made out of wood, even if it's polished wood. Yeah. By the way, I'm not going to actually do it, but we could bring in. Oop. I just need to place that back. So we could actually bring in specular edge color as well, and then have one for our edge color and our face color. That seems a little bit much for what we're doing. We'll just let the material values in Substance or in Arnold drive the specular edge color. So there we go. There's our base. But again, just like with the coffee mug, this is only the beginning. What can we do to that desk? Scratches, very good. Anybody else? You and then you. What did you say? Really think you'd have eraser smudges on your desk, would you? Okay. Her, then you. Perfect. Great. You? Dust. Dust is fine. That's what she said. We could, but those are a separate texture set. Edgeware. Edgeware, that works. What'd you say? Yeah. Okay, so let's write these down. What do we got? Edgeware.
Is there a way to do like this? I don't know if this said already, but like a heating ring for like the mug.
A what?
Like, you know, like sometimes you cut like a hot thing.
Oh, a burn.
Yeah, it's like almost like a burn. Like at least it it makes that section way more rough.
Maybe we can do something like that.
Oh, the heat prints that go from like leaving like a hot dish out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scratches. All right, that's a good list. We'll work on those. And I have reference for all of that. By the way, we don't require you to post your Substance reference, but I'm showing you guys that you should be looking it up, just so you don't think that I'm trying to do this stuff without reference. Would work. So let's see. Here's all my wood reference. I don't need the cutting board. Don't need that. There's our edgeware. Here's our burns. Scratches, scratches. Intense scratches. Sun bleaching. That used to be important. And dust. Oh, dust. I forgot about dust. And water rings. Let's add dust back in. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my second monitor over here. So what do we want to work on first? We'll work on edgeware. All right. Like where? And I have reference over here, so grab that. I want this one to be a little bit more red. Okay, so there's our wear. It's not going to be metal. It's going to have some pretty high roughness, right? We're literally wearing away at the original surface. Specular level is not going to see a huge adjustment because it's still the same material. So I'm actually going to just get rid of specular level because it's the same wood. It's just got significantly higher roughness. Okay. I think that's good. So let's add our black mask. And do you think there's any smart mask that could help us out here? Well, all libraries. For starter assets. So we have edge damage, edge cracks. I've actually never seen a use for that one. Edge rust, stone cracks, edge dust, edge scratched, edges strong, edges strong scratched, edge damage. So which one do you guys think? What do you think? Which one should I try? Edge damage? Not bad. It gave us a little bit of detail. I think we might need to add to that though. So I'm going to try, not edges uber, edges strong scratched. Oh, wow, that is strong. Frank really should bevel the edge of this desk just a little bit, personally. There we go. We got some additional damage. And then we have to make these two work together. So light and max. There you go. And maybe just for fun, I'm going to try out this, not that one, edges strong scratched. Okay, that's a lot of scratches. What do you guys think? Probably too many scratches. But let's lower the wear level. What about that? Is that too many scratches? I think that's going to look pretty nice because remember, this is probably what we're going to see. So it's kind of good to have in there. Which means I can probably lower this a little. It's all right. We got some stuff going on. We even got some edgeware right around the dresser, like you guys were mentioning, around the drawers. Now, of course, this is not where I'm going to leave this. No, we haven't even added any fills yet. Add fill. So let's see what we can add in here. A logo, yeah, we'll do that later. So I'm actually doing two at once. I'm doing edgeware and I'm doing scratches. So there are two scratches ones. There's scratches rough and scratches generator. Scratches rough is the one I prefer. So I'm going to add that one in here. Now, as you can see, it's way too big. So we're going to increase it probably to about 3. It's way too many scratches still, but we can change that. So the first thing I do is I like to get rid of this spot. So it puts these like weird random spots in there. So I lower that or get rid of it altogether. Double scratch makes them a little bit thicker, which I like. Because I'll lower the length. No. Lower the width a little bit. And then I'll just lower the balance so there's less of them. But if you add this again to what we already have, you get something looking pretty nice. Just breaks it up a little bit. And you know what? I am going to get rid of that spot intensity. Looks like somebody roughed up this desk because they've been using it for a lot of stuff and moving their keyboard around and their mouse on it. And probably putting together Warhammer miniatures because that's what happened to my desk. I mean, that probably has happened. Happened to me this weekend. Let's try one more because I'm kind of curious about this one. Grunge, dirty, scratchy. Increase this to like 3. Not for this one, but it might be good to actually put on a roughness layer by itself. In fact, let's do that. Let's just have some changes in the roughness. We'll do nothing in this layer but rough. And The rough is going to be a little bit higher. Add a black mask and then add a fill. Put this guy in there. Yeah, you can barely see it, but there is, oh, now you can see it. Let's actually adjust that a little bit more then. Not bad. I like that. Specifically, it's kind of rougher where the laptop goes, as if the laptop has kind of like roughly damaged it from all of the heat it produces when we're trying to do our renders. You guys are like, yeah, we know how that is. I'm gonna go back in here to the wear and I'm gonna add one last paint layer. And I'm gonna grab my brush and ooh, there are different scratches. That one looks terrible. Although it kind of looks fun, like somebody was writing with a marker. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna use this one. Scratches 2. It's my favorite. What's this color nonsense? Oh, I can increase size and X. So I can manually put in a couple of more scratches. At least I should. Why have they made this brush more complicated? It does not need to be. Can I just, yeah, that's what I want. None of that nonsense. There we are. Just manually put some scratches in. There we go. Cool. So that's fun. Which ones did we do? I'm losing track. We did edgeware, we did scratches. Next up, we'll do coffee ring and coffee stains all together. Click save. Okay, so depending on how fresh the coffee rings are, we're either going to have a brighter circle or a darker circle. This projector is not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to grab my color from the original. I'm going to make it a little bit brighter, as if it was damaged. And then increase the roughness because it is damaging the desk. We're not going to change the height, although we missed an opportunity here on wear. Let's go back. Let's add some height in here. And by add, I mean lower. Look at that. Do you guys see that? Actually, let's check how low we can go now. Whoa. Substance has really increased how much they can do in the height. So that's probably too much. Let's make it like negative. Negative 0.05. Negative 0.20. We can actually check. That's doing nothing. That's doing stuff. Let's just lower that to 0.002. There we go. Subtle, but it is adjusting the height. Very good. Let's go back to coffee. Now we can still see our scratches, which we would be able to. This actually would change the specular level, not the height. This is a different material. It is probably going to be lower in spec. And now add a black mask. So for coffee, I'm not really going to add a fill. I'm going to go straight to adding paint for this because it's going to be isolated detail. It's going to be detail that we're specifically going to decide where it goes. And I do have a brush for that. It's the ring. No, it's spots. So there's a default brush that's pretty good. And so we'll just put a few rings in over here. Need to change that color. Maybe we should make it more like, now these are burns. Do we need to be bigger? Yeah, I think we do need to be bigger. I think you're right. Oh, I think there's size jitter going on, which we don't want. So that's the problem. We want flow jitter, position jitter, but no size jitter. I bet I got this annoying nonsense going on. Okay, too much position jitter. You know, maybe I put the mug over here some days. And then we'll do some for our thermos. So we've been drinking coffee or hot chocolate or ramen out of our thermos. But that's not the only ring I want to have. I brought in something specifically to help us with this. I brought in our own water ring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to alpha. I'm just going to replace this with that. There we go. Going over here. And let's do a fresh one. And this one is going to be some dark coffee stains, which are fresh because we just spilled coffee from our mug. There we go. Lower roughness. No height. No metal. Black. So now let's get some fresh coffee stains. Oh. Change the alpha. In fact, I'm gonna lower these because they're not really doing as much for me. But they are discoloring it, which giving it a bit more variation. So there you go. What do you guys think? You like our coffee stains? Now, I'm going to show you guys something fun, but a little bit dangerous. Oh, why did I not put those on a paint layer? Okay, well, you know what? Let's just duplicate this anyway. So clear mask and doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter. Huh. I just realized I don't know where they put these now. Smudge, clone, material. Okay, so these are now included in the normal brushes, which is a little bit different. These are particle brushes, and they're dynamic brushes that do a little bit of an animation to create your texture. So we're going to try some spills. So let's try this leaks brush. Let's see what this does. Okay, that's not really what we want, but I bet it would if we had it on the edge. Yeah, it drips down. That's cool. Try leaks heavy. What does that look like? Again, not really helping us out much here. Maybe liquid strong. Well, well, that was fun. Not really what I wanted, though. Now, we could adjust the settings here. Lower the particle life. Lower the particle life a lot, maybe. Try leaks again. Where's all the settings for leaks? So these just kind of sit there. I don't know. None of this is what I wanted. Oh, let's try splat. That's what I wanted. Like a nice natural looking coffee spill. So if we spilled some under the cup, it would kind of look like that. And maybe an old spill over here. Now, for funsies, there's a couple of other ones we could show off. Fracture is really good if you guys are trying to make like a break in glass. See? Laser impact is always fun. You know, our office got invaded by stormtroopers. Everybody likes this one. Fire. Now I'm doing these in the mask, so they're kind of doing a little weird. Broken glass, this actually would be better than fracture because it's like isolated. Although you would want to isolate the fractures a little bit more. There's these ones, veins. Woo! Veins small, which is the same thing, just tiny. And then there's Rococo, which is really just a weird version of veins. Oh, it's veins, but everywhere. There's sandstorm and rain, which is like a global effect. I like this one. Electric lights. Oh, geez. Come on. Oh, they changed it. Whatever. Okay. So there we go. There's our happy desk. Oh, we still have to do the dust. We'll do one more layer. Actually be here. All right, so dust, no height, specular level, probably lower. Dust creates high roughness. Not metallic. Add black mask. Oh, dust plastic. That's a new one. So let's just put dust surface on. There we go. And we'll adjust the settings a little bit. That did not work how I would think it would. Something's not working right there. There we go. Making it a little bit less visible. Actually, what did I just do? Bring this back. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a fill. And then, unsurprisingly, there's some good masks for dust somewhere. There we go. grunge dust spread. So that one's kind of nice. We'll do a linear dodge add. And then where are my wipes? That's what I want. I want it to look like somebody actually tried to clean up the dust, which is why I'm going to add the wipes.
White street.
Yep, it should do that. I have to invert it. And we're definitely going to have to come in here and put this at 3. And then I'm going to take this and put this to multiply. Actually, no, I'm going to take this and put this to subtract. And then, so let's go back. Let's actually add a little bit more back in. Because I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to lower the color of the dust significantly because the dust is going to be much more of an effect in roughness and whatnot. All right, so that is our desk. I do have a couple of more tricks up my sleeve to show you because we did not do the drawers yet. So what I'm actually going to do is I am going to create a little folder here. And I'm going to take everything except for these coffee stains. I'm going to put them in this folder. Come on. I'm going to name this and my caps lock on. Okay. And so once I have that folder, I'm going to take that and I'm going to name that or make that a, where is it? Create smart material. So now, just as I've said, I have made my own smart material. I told you guys I was going to do it and I did it. So now if I go over to desk drawer, I can just drag this in here and it has all of the work that I did except for the coffee spills. And get rid of this extra layer. It's not what I wanted to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this base and I'm just going to go to the project because I brought in a different texture. So I'm just going to change that default texture. And I'll change this color so it's a little bit more in line. Get rid of the dust momentarily. There we go. I got some UV stretching. Anyway, put the dust back on, go to material mode. There we go. Might actually lower the color of the dust even more because it's a little too visible. All right, look at that. We did the drawers in like no time flat. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is the thermos. We are running a little low on time. So plastic ring. I'm just going to take this and make this like a default material so it's not like bothering me. That's all I wanted to do with plastic ring. So we have a chrome thermos. This will be fun. Now, I am going to start out with a material. And there's some good steels that I'll just use. Let's check. Now, the whole reason I'm doing this one is because metal works a little bit differently. And in truth, this is not chrome, it's stainless steel, which is what these are usually made out of. I'll lower the roughness. There we go. Did forget to look up how the antroscopy works, but it is a material thing. Ah, antroscopy, here it is. Let's put that in there. We'll play with that. We'll see how it looks. Make a new layer. And is that doing anything? No. Okay, clearly I need to study that a little bit more. We're just going to ignore that because we have our antroscopy and our material in Maya. But what I wanted to show you guys to do here is the difference between how metal affects our textures, because doing a metal in Painter is a little bit of a different workflow. So for the first time, we're actually going to use the metal channel. Before, I've just been using it on every base layer and making it black so that it will render out a completely black texture. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to ignore it when I go into Arnold. I'm just going to ignore it exists because it's not helpful. But now I'm going to add some rust. And which rust am I going to use? There's two. Use rust coarse. These are both fine materials, so we're just going to go ahead and use them. To add a black mask. And this should be no surprise. I'm going to use a smart material. There's several rust here. I think surface rust is usually pretty good. Yeah, surface rust gives me like a nice spattering. So it looks like this thermos has seen some days. But I'm also going to add some more. Let's try edge rust. See what that does. That is not what I want at all. Cavity rust. That's kind of fun. Might go back to that one. Let's just do standard rust. That's kind of too much rust. Unless we can lower the balance here. Yeah. I don't think I can use that one, guys. Try rust drips. Nah. Let me go back to cavity rust. I like this one because it's got kind of a very kind of clear gradient going on here. And it looks pretty good. We're having a minor issue with the seams, but it is facing away from the camera. So let's just lower it a little bit. And lower the curvature a little bit because that's a little intense up there. I'm actually doing, no, it's not. It's the occlusion. That's what's driving this. There we go. We'll have a little bit of rust at the bottom. It looks like it's seen some age, but it's not too bad. And I'm going to do one more thing just so you guys can see. We're going to add our logo. So for this, for metal, not metallic. Height, nothing. Normal, nothing. I forgot to get rid of the normal channel, didn't I? Roughness, a little bit, not much. Color, almost pure black. Not much saturation. Yeah, 0.04, that's pretty dark. Actually too dark. 2.05. Then we'll add a black mask. And I'm just going to do the stencil and that we brought in. Where's my shit? There we go. I'm doing that instead of the SAL logo. Now, Tony Saxon is going to show you guys how to use a projector next class, or unless he's already showed that. I'm pretty sure that's next class. You are required to do a projector. You can do your logo on the thermos if you choose to paint it in Substance Painter, but you are still required to do an SAL or to do a logo that is using a projector. What? Tony Saxon will show you next class. The thing in Maya where you can literally be like, it's like you're using a flashlight with a stencil to display where your texture is. You literally can move around and be Maya and be like, right there. And it'll be like, there. And it's a requirement for the class that you do that. So there you go. Okay. So this is it for our scene. We've textured 4 materials. Go to Export Textures. And we're going to export the chrome thermos, the desk base, the desk drawer, and the mug. Everything else is getting disabled. I got to tell this where it's going to go. Otherwise, it's going to put it inside the Substance Painter export folder, which is nowhere near our project folder and entirely useless. So let's go to our project folder. Let's go source images, Substance Painter files. Nope, those are source files. So nope. Substance textures, here we are. And every month I make a new folder. Need to delete some of these older ones. 9, create, open. And we need to make sure that the output template is using, oh, we passed it. Arnold AI standard, the material type we're using. File type based on output. No, file type is Targa. And size based on texture set. That's fine. Okay, all that. You hit export. And it exports all your textures. You can even open your output directory. And so we can see all those fabulous textures we just made. Look at that. Well, that's not really useful, is it? Or is that? I'm a little surprised that the rust didn't. Yes. Desk metal? Yeah, that's not very useful. You'll get some of these that are just kind of like, whatever. Desk base normal? That should have detail in it. All right, so we're not really doing a lot with height tonight, I can tell. So there's all of our maps. We're effectively done with Substance Painter. Or Adobe Substance 3D Painter. So let's go ahead, open Maya back up. And this is the one thing I don't think that you guys have been shown yet. You haven't been shown how to bring things back into Maya after you leave Substance Painter, have you? That is what you do, yes. Oh, good. They're teaching that portfolio now. Because I knew for the longest time, and I'm talking like 4 or 5 years, nobody knew until they got to this class. Okay. Well, we're going to show it anyway. It's no worries. Arnold. File. Recent file. There we go. I really need some water. Okay. So you guys have already been introduced to the hypershade, so you kind of already know what the deal is there. All right, where is my mug? Coffee mug, there it is. So what we're gonna do is we're literally gonna just plug these in one by one. So if you go to color, file, and I will go to my substance textures, my new folder. This is the mug. I really wish I didn't put the freaking file name on the front there. There we go. There's our color. And if we press 6, we should be able to see it. There we are. So that one's easy. There's almost nothing that we have to do to futz around with it. Next up, I don't think we did anything with height on this one, did we? So we'll skip that and we'll go straight to our primary specular and reference. Go to color. I think this is right. File, input. Let's stop going there. Substance textures, 9. Because I don't think there's anything in our height. Oh man, it didn't export the spec. That is annoying. Thought I would have done that. Well, I guess not. It did export the roughness. Sorry, like I said, new material type with the Adobe standard material. I totally thought it would have exported that. So just go specular. Great. Go roughness. File. Now, when you bring in the roughness, there's a couple of things we have to do. There we go. First off, we have to change this from color space to raw. And then we have to go down here in color balance, alpha is luminance. And any material that has, or any texture channel that's black and white, you're gonna have to do that too. So that's it for that one. And then we're gonna do the desk. The desk has 2 materials though. So desk base. First, we'll do color. Then we will do our bump. So go into advanced. Go into, sorry, not advanced, geometry. Bump mapping. And this one gives you this little extra bump node to control the bump intensity. go in. And desk base height. There you go. I'll lower that to 0.2 just in case. And don't forget that we do need to change this to raw. Raw. Alpha's limits. It's already checked. Good. And finally, roughness. And here's our whole graph. Should have our texture on there. Good. I'll do the drawer. And finally, our thermos. Chrome thermos, which is not chrome, is stainless steel. So here, the metalness one is the big difference. So it is the only one when we go into substance or when we go into our textures, that is the only one where the metal channel actually has anything in it. And so it's just defining where it's metal and where it's not. Um, and let's see here. Roughness. What'd you say? Ah, good catch. Yes, you do. It's easy to forget that when you're just in like plugging all these maps in. Okay. I don't really need a bump because we didn't use any height on that. but the rust would have some bump in it. We'll go ahead and plug it in. Only two more textures to plug in. Doesn't look like there's anything in there. And finally, the roughness. A little disappointed about that specular level thing. I thought that was really gonna export. I guess I probably need to mess with the exporter to make sure it exports next time. Because the exporter's legacy, so it probably wasn't built to consider it. What am I doing? Roughness? Raw. And alpha is limited. Okay. Got all our textures plugged in. So we should be able to go to our still life camera here. So I will actually bring in a little closer so we can see everything. And let's do a render. I can already see some of our detail on the dusty drawers there.
Everything in, all of your textures, your materials, I took the materials off of a lot, just to speed it up. It could take anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes. Render a single frame.
So could I use this?
So here's the thing to consider. Objects will be reflected in some of your surfaces. If you can't see it all at all, go ahead and move the material back yourself out and replace it with just a standard AI. However, keep in mind anything that's glossy, the monitor, the mug, the glass bottle, the thermos, it's going to be reflected things that you see. Great, you rendered the things that don't have something like your body. Thank you, Arnold. I could, but at this point it would take just as long. Keep that. You can see some of our coffee still right here. Few spots in there. Oh, you can see our lipstick on the slide. Nice and subtle. You guys did Project 6. Did you notice all of a sudden when you put glass in the scene, the render was like almost doubled? So, same process actually happened with some of the customers that we would like to use glass. It gets a little complicated because when you're working with glass, there is no, how do I put this? You have to take the color out of it because when you're working with glass, the color doesn't come from color, it comes from refraction. Physically. So you wouldn't paint the piece color. You would paint refraction. So the substance is a little weird. So what Shane actually has to do, he has them paint the glass as black, and then they just add the color of the glass back in the material and varnish. So that is the correct way to do it. And I used to teach this at this class for 2 months. But students were getting really, really confused. So we took it out. We were like, you know what? Ooh, look how messed up and grungy your desk is. I love it. Don't do something. You're only required to do 2 objects. One metal, one not. Yes, believe me, I love something. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to do a something specifically for the detail specific thing. The things that are not close to the camera, you wouldn't do that. Don't mean you have to be part of the application. So I'm a big fan of it. Used to be substance out there. Substance, sampler, Adobe Substance 3D thing. But I haven't cracked that open since the new one. Yeah, really deeply because I used it. I did really like alpha. I was pushing to teach that in this class, and then they changed it after relearning it. Like a review, right? He's my tool. Relearning. I'm not kidding you guys. I have learned Unreal 6 times. Drastically changed it all the time. All right, time to go open up some Unreal story. It's a good tool. I suppose that's better than Unity where you don't change stuff. The materials are terribly. I hate the Unity. They have to work with it all the time. They don't do what I need them to do. It's so old. No, we see a lot of our scenes. You can't really see our family very well. What do you guys think of our phone? Think of our desk, all that stuff? That'd probably be easier. Yep. We see a couple of our coffee stains. Definitely. That's on this terrible projector. Oh, it's even better on the screen. It does. Also, we haven't done anything.
Oh yeah, I have it. Just gotta add it. Noise or noise. Oh no. Oh well. All right, guys, that is pretty much my substance painter lecture. Do we have any questions? You are going to have to read pretty much whichever object. The reason being is that when Frank modeled all the geometry in this scene, he modeled it for a workflow that does not use painter, which means that you can use repeating UV. Let's talk about that real quick. There are two types of UVs, collage UVs and repeating UVs. You guys have used collage UVs before, probably. Anybody know what makes you use collage UVs? Kind of, but you need to be more specific than property. Somebody else still got it? You? Flipping is not as big of a deal. But overlapping, yes. You also can't have anything outside the 0 to 1. The reason for that is when you're doing collage UVs, you are doing one version of the texture. When it's in 0 to 1, this is what is being textured. You got your UV show. When you're doing repeating UVs, just realize I'm drawing on the board. People in the digital can't see what I'm doing. Anyway, when you're doing repeat UVs, things will repeat outside 0 to 1 or tiled type. And when you do this, you do like I did with the wood grid. I started with, I just took a piece of it, I made it repeat, and repeat out. The advantage to this is that you can have your UVs outside 0 to 1, you can have your UVs overlapping. However, whenever you do anything that creates textures from a program and bakes them out, you cannot do repeating UVs. Because you have UVs on top of each other, and you tell your computer to create those textures, you have two faces with entirely different positions. That you are now telling your program, hey, these two different faces that occupy the same space in the texture, they need to have different textures. Your computer's like, what? And so you get like a weird checker with that. That happens if you try and paint something in Painter, because you're painting a collage texture. So if you have overlapping UVs in Painter and you try and paint an area with take your brush and paint it 3D on the model, your computer literally is like, what? What? So it gives you a weird jumble of concepts. In my opinion, substance 3D sampling. Especially as a starting out artist. Substance design is a really powerful application, but it is so complicated that we can't do it. There's no way. I think Shane teaches us a little bit in computer animation, so you guys get the DSP. He teaches one class on it, and I don't know, I think they do one lesson in game art as well. The designer is very cool, but I like to refer to the designer as making textures with sorcery or hieroglyphics, because you're doing node-based programming to create a texture. So it's literally like you start out with a square, and then you're like, all right, but I want to stretch it. So you create a stretch node, and it creates this. And then you're like, all right, but I want it across. So you're like, okay, we'll take this and then rotate it 90 degrees. So I have this and this
And then you're like, okay, now combine them. It's like, okay, so now I have a cross. Yes. And there are lots and lots of nodes and commands. That is a very simple version of what you do. So Shane is better at me than designer, definitely. He spends a little bit more time in it. But I like it. I made textures in there. I watched a DDT tutorial from a guy who worked at Naughty Dog. He made a Viking scene where literally the geometry of the scene was like 8 planes, and everything else was texture. So he made substance designer, and he created like a fully realized scene with like Viking shields and axes and swords and a first coat. And like, it was crazy, man. We did all of this with textures and designer. Yeah. Wow. How about you guys in the virtual? Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
I was talking to you know, think about company today.
Yeah.
I was trying to check sections inside. I don't have to do sections other than like episodes. Is on 13% of so I was designing it between three.
So, as I was just saying, designer is a node-based system used to create procedural texture. You know how we had those smart materials that we were playing around with that had like the smart maps with all the sliders? You're building that using nodes. And then you can export that out and you can bring it into Unreal or Unity or whatever. And you'll expose variables so that the artist has control over them. And once they have control over them, then you're basically like, don't touch any of this stuff. Just touch these things that it's okay for you to operate. But it is definitely not a junior level application. It's one of those things that like I don't, as far as I know, nobody really gets into while they're in school super deep. Just because it's so deep. And it's a great application. I love it. I've seen some great artwork made with it. But and from what I've been hearing from people I know at Epic and people I know at Naughty Dog and people I know with other stuff, they've sort of split texturing off into 2 different jobs. So there's one job, and that's the senior texture. And he'll make materials in substance design. He'll make all those cool things. And then the junior, I don't know why I had to write this. The junior uses it. So he makes the stuff. And then, like, okay, I made this thing. Now you can use that in Painter to make the asset. And they've made it so you can do that in Unreal as well. There's like super advanced level making of textures and materials in Unreal. And then they're like, okay, and then once you make it, turn all of this stuff off and just turn the stuff that you want your artist to actually touch on. And so they'll have like 1 or 2 of these guys, and then they'll have like 15 of these. You guys get paid.
I love so. I love it.
But I was actually, when I was watching my Unreal tutorials, specifically about materials,
they were saying like, this is the workflow we recommend for studios. Have one guy who makes all the stuff and then give it to your artist and have one guy that's like, okay, here's what you have access to. But don't touch anything else. You can basically make a version of the material that is locked down. And be like, okay, this is what you can use. Don't touch my master material. And so this kind of links up to this. And he can go into the project and make changes to this that will change what the juniors are doing. But they can't do any of that stuff. So like you make a suite of brass materials and then you give that to the artist and be like, okay, but plug that in and plug that into like the stuff in the room and all that. And they can plug like textures in and do minor changes. But they'll have to do a lot more stuff. Anyway, there we go. There's our texture, our render. It's fun though. I really do enjoy texturing a lot. I wish we had more time that we could spend in Painter. I wish that we could get into Substance 3D Sampler in this class. But unfortunately, we have 4 weeks and we also have to teach you lighting. And believe me, if they ever split this class into 2 classes and gave me a class to teach you texturing, I would be the first one in line going, I want to teach that class. What? Super extreme, yeah. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. And I somehow knocked my power cable out a while ago. I am going to say you guys are pretty much free to go. And we'll have you back at 6 o'clock. Oh, wait, I do need to take rolls. So don't nobody leave yet. That's perfect. It's going to take me 10 minutes just to take roll. Derek.
Here.
Thank you. Virtual, right?
Yeah.
Catherine Fleming. Kane.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Sheldon.
Here.
Kvad.
Here.
I know I'm going to say this again. Gitano? You said, how do I say that? Gaetano. It's a nice name. I'm sad I'm butchering it. Dinah?
Here.
I feel like I'm getting that one wrong too. Danye. Okay. Again, I'm sorry. I don't do this intentionally. Alexander? Willie?
Here.
Haley?
Here.
Lanica?
Here.
Ross? Julio?
Here.
Colby? Dylan? Ashanti? Aaron?
Here.
And one more. Nathaniel? Okay. All right, guys. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed all the fun substancing. Am I still? Yeah, I have to be back at 6.